What's up, friends? On today's video, I'm talking about the two best down payment assistance programs in Minnesota that I know of. And you might have heard about the one, but I swear the other one is really cool. So stick around. How's it going, y'all? My name is Jesse Lynch. I'm a real estate agent and a real estate team leader here in the Twin Cities of Minnesota. I run a team called To the Twin Cities, but this YouTube channel is devoted to two things. The first of which is teaching people about buying, selling, investing in real estate, and the second of which is showing off the amazing place that I live, the Twin Cities of Minnesota. If either or both of those things appeal to you, do us both a favor, subscribe to the channel, click the bell to get notified, give the video a thumbs up, and say what's up in the comments. I would appreciate it. And you know what? I'm gonna add one specifically for this video. Share this video, send this video to a friend that you might know that very specifically is considering buying a house in Minnesota and may or may not have a bunch of money for a down payment. And I say may or may not because even if you do, the one down payment assistance program that I'm going to talk about second, I truly believe could be like the most powerful down payment assistance program that exists out there. Okay, and before I jump into this, I just want to quickly say, whether you're moving here from out of state, which by the way, welcome, we're excited to have you, or if you're buying your first home or a second home and you're just here watching this, looking for some information, maybe looking for a dope group of realtors, then I would just like to implore you to reach out to us. You can go to tothetwincities.com, hit us up there, we have a contact form, or you can email me at jesse@tothetwincities.com. But anyways, enough plugs. That's not what you're here for. I know that. You're here for the two best down payment assistance programs in Minnesota. So let's get into it. All right, the first one, I've talked about this before on this channel, but it has been a little bit since I've talked about it. And really, I've only wrapped it into these other videos. I've never done a video just on down payment assistance, right? So if you've seen my video, which is like called How Much Does It Cost to Buy a House in Minnesota? You might be familiar with this one, or I don't know. I put it in several videos because I think it's really cool. It's really powerful. And there's a certain amount of people out there who want to buy a house, but just don't have the down payment. So if that's the only thing blocking you, then this program is a very, very powerful, and that is called MHFA. MHFA, not to be confused with FHA. Two completely different programs, entities. FHA means Federal Housing Administration. It is a federal program. They basically insure loans that lenders will give out to like riskier home buyers. There's tons of people use FHA loans, and overwhelmingly it's for people with lower credit scores or like sketchier credit histories. But anyways, if you're curious about that, I have a video called FHA versus conventional. You can go watch that and figure out what the difference is. Either way, it's not FHA, it is called MHFA. MHFA is Minnesota Housing Finance Agency. And fundamentally, it's a program. It's not just this down payment assistance. It's a whole agency and they're involved with a lot of different things, but primarily what we're talking about today is their down payment assistance program. I hear some people call it the Minnesota First Time Homebuyer Program. It's not that though. The thing about that is it doesn't have to be your first home. It can be your second home or your third home. Obviously it can't be like your vacation home or like a rental property or something like that, but you can have owned a home in the past and sold it a long time ago or whatever, a couple years ago, and then find yourself in a situation where you could use down payment assistance again and you can use it again. It's not like a one-time only, first-time home buyers only kind of thing. It is just a down payment assistance program, and it's sort of blanketed with some caveats. Real quick, I just want to say this is not lending advice. Okay? I'm not a lender, I'm a real estate agent. I'm just telling you about these things that are available, and any actual lending advice should be coming from a lender. By the way, I have a really great lender that I work with, and I'm not just like pushing him because he's like my lender or whatever. I truly value what he has to offer and just like how well he treats our clients. That is a very important thing to me. Anyways, he told me about MHFA about a year ago. I probably made a video about a year ago where I started talking about it because I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. I gotta, shout this from the rooftop. But actually the next one could potentially be cooler. It depends on your financial situation. So basically, in a nutshell, MHFA is a program that can provide up to $17,000 in down payment assistance. And now it's a second loan. So you have your main mortgage, which is basically your purchase price minus your down payment. And then you have the secondary loan, which is your down payment and potentially some closing costs wrapped in to that payment. Okay, and that two loan situation, that's usually how down payment assistance programs work, unless they're fully a gift, but that is pretty rare. I actually don't know of any other than like down payment assistance from a family member or something like that, which is just considered a gift. And now with MHFA, there's sort of two versions of this, and it depends on your income, and I'm not totally dive into that right now, but so there are two types. The first type is basically if you make above a certain threshold. I still think there's a cap, but there's like a top tier, or maybe it would actually kind of be like the lower tier of actual assistance. But if you make above a certain threshold and below the other threshold, then it's like a monthly payment assistance. So basically it would be a monthly payment that's added on top of your mortgage for the first 10 years of your mortgage. And I believe the limit for that is either $10,000 or $13,000. I don't remember, but it's something like that. And I believe the like assistance limit for that is either $10,000 or $13,000. I don't fully remember, but in that scenario, you're lent this money and you pay it off over 10 years at a predetermined interest rate. And one interesting thing about the MHFA program, in that program, they set the rate for the main mortgage, right? The first mortgage. So normally, if you're not using down payment assistance, right? If you just have money towards a down payment, you have one single mortgage. It's usually some percentage of the total purchase price because the other percentage would be your down payment, right? So you have your first mortgage, and really the market determines the rate on the first mortgage. I'm not going to get into the weeds of like what that means because I can't take it right now, but just know that normally the market sort of determines the rate of a first mortgage. But with MHFA, that program has a predetermined rate for not only the down payment assistance money, that second loan, but it also applies to that first mortgage. And usually that predetermined interest rate for MHFA is going to be higher than if you had a normal loan with, just market rate. Okay, so then anyways, at that point you're making two different payments. One is on the first mortgage, the principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and then the other is on the second mortgage, which is basically just a down payment assistance, which might be like $100, $150 per month for the first 10 years. 10 years in, boom, you pay that thing off, and then you're just working on that first mortgage. But that first mortgage is still at that predetermined rate by MHFA. Okay, I literally just had a closing today, like 7 hours ago, and he was like a perfect candidate for it. He had plenty of income to be able to afford the payments comfortably, but he just didn't have the down payment yet, and he was like, well, I don't really want to wait a few years to be able to save up the money for a down payment. I totally understand, and that's why I'm all about these down payment assistance programs when you can get them. Okay, and then the second version of the MHFA loan is called like a deferred payment plan, I think, or something like that. But basically what it means is they're going to give you that money up front, so you can close on the house, and then you don't have to pay it until basically you either fully pay off your mortgage or you sell the house. So basically like you part ways with the home or whatever. Okay, and that one is in the lower tier as far as like your income. You can't make past a certain threshold because it's a greater degree of assistance, and they're just saying like, below this threshold, they think that you should be able to afford paying for it over the first 10 years, and under it, they're saying it's cool, pay us when you move, or when you're all the way done with your mortgage, then you can probably afford to pay like a little bit every month on this like rather minuscule loan. And the coolest thing in my opinion, and the reason that MHFA might be the perfect down payment assistance program for a certain person, is because it only requires $1,000 out of pocket contribution from the buyer, you potentially, right? So let me reiterate that one more time. You can get up to $17,000 in down payment and closing cost assistance with a minimum out-of-pocket contribution of $1,000. And look, it's not free money. You do have to pay for it. But I think a lot of people would argue that getting into a home sooner and being able to enjoy the likes of equity and appreciation is better than waiting and struggling to save up money and having to wait, several years before you can potentially become a homeowner, at which point you just potentially just missed out on a bunch of equity and a bunch of appreciation and whatever, and continued to pay rent, by the way. And for the record, MHFA does work with either FHA loans or conventional loans. Maybe that doesn't mean anything to you. If it doesn't and you're curious, go ahead and watch my FHA versus conventional video. It's a little bit of an older video, but I'm quite sure that there is some value to be had. But yeah, that is basically MHFA in a nutshell. First of all, not all lenders are created equally on this. There are a lot of lenders who say they can't do it or whatever, and in my opinion, it's because they don't know how to do it. They're not good at it. The lender that I go through very often, I think probably does more of these loans than most people. Okay, so drum roll. this next down payment assistance program, final down payment assistance program of this video, I think is just so cool. It's so potentially powerful for the right candidate. For some folks, MHFA is going to be the better move, and for some folks, this next one is for sure going to be a sweet, sweet deal. And for the record, this is only available through the lender's company that I typically work with, and that company is called Refine Lending. No, this is not a paid advertisement. I'm not getting paid anything to talk about this. I just think this program is sweet, and I would love for myself and my team to be able to help you utilize it. And this program is called the WISH program. Okay, so the WISH program is an insane program for the right type of person, specifically the kind of person who has like in the $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 ready to spend as a down payment. If you don't have that, then probably MHFA might be of more help. And the reason for that is that the WISH program actually matches what you contribute, but not just 1-to-1. It's not like you put 1,000, they put 1,000. 1-to-4 or 4-to-1. You put in $1,000, they put in 4, giving you $5,000. And they will do that match 1-to-4 all the way up until they contribute $22,000. So if you can contribute $5,500, they can contribute up to $22,000, which would basically mean that you're working with $27,000 and you contributed $5,500. And now you might be thinking, well, that's not much better than the MHFA thing, if at all better. MHFA, you come with 1,000, they give you 17. Well, here's the kicker. The WISH program funds are eventually forgivable. And what does that mean? Well, very specifically, if you live in the house for 5 years, then the entirety, 100% of the WISH program contribution is forgivable to you, is forgiven, right? After 5 years, the whole thing of it is forgiven. But it's not like you have to live there all 5 years to get it forgiven. Every single month, okay, this is pretty quick math, you probably know this, but 5 years is 60 months. Right? 5 years, 60 months, 12 times 5, 60. Every month that you reside in the home that you used the WISH program on, every month that you reside in it, basically 1/60th of that WISH money is forgiven. So if you live in it for a single year, then 12 months is forgiven, and 48 months, or I guess 48/60ths of it. I know that there's a lower fraction, but I'm not going to do it. Also, fun fact is that your initial investment, so that like up to $5,500 amount, that money can be a gift from an acceptable source, okay? So, which is basically a relative or spouse, a fiance, or a domestic partner. It can't be a friend, it can't be a boss. For whatever reason, those are like the acceptable sources for basically all gift money. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I understand. Those are the sources that most underwriters and most lenders in general want the money to come from. And usually you need a letter associated with it that says, this money is a gift, this money is not a loan, I'm giving this money to this person with zero expectations of it ever being paid back, okay? And most underwriters are going to require that, if not all of them. So real quick, let's pretend that you don't have $5,500, but you have $4,000. What does that look like? It's pretty simple. You put in $4,000 and they kick in $16,000, which basically means that as far as writing offers go and getting offers accepted goes, rather than working with $4,000, you actually have $20,000 to work with. And that's not just for down payment, so I'll get into that right now. Okay, so you're not only restricted to use these funds just towards down payment, as in you have a $200,000 house and now you're using $20,000, so it's a $10,000 down payment. Maybe that's ideal, maybe that sounds good. However, in this market and for a lot of the folks who are using a loan like this, that's not necessarily the most effective way to use that money. So if you've watched my other videos about how much it costs to buy a house, you know that there is a thing called closing costs. Closing costs exist, and basically approximate standard, they're somewhere around 3% of the total purchase price of the loan. A lot of the time it is possible to get the sellers to pay closing costs, but that is more and more difficult as this market gets more and more competitive. And so because it's difficult in this particular market to have sellers pay closing costs, by the way, a year ago, it wasn't. It's kind of crazy. It's changed. So now that instead of having $4,000 or whatever to work with to, as down payment, you have $20,000 available to you, or again, up to 27, depending on how much money you have. So not only can you use that as down payment money, but you can use that to pay your own closing costs. So then you can make a much more compelling offer. So rather than, in order to get an offer, a net offer of $200,000, you say, we'll give you $206,000 minus 3% seller's concessions, which puts it at a $200,000 offer, which the reason that that's not ideal, by the way, is because then that endangers the house not not appraising at that value. That's basically a whole other topic, but I'm not going to go down that road. And if you're interested in that, you can get a hold of us. I promise we can talk through it. But just know that in general, the reason it's more difficult nowadays to have a seller pay your closing costs is because when you bump that price up, it actually makes it more difficult to appraise for that price. Maybe that makes sense, maybe it doesn't. I can probably do a video on that at some point, but just reach out to us, okay? And we'll answer that question. Okay, so then on that house, which by the way, there's not a whole lot of houses in the Twin Cities for $200,000. I'm just using that because it's easy. So let's bump it up to $300,000 because that's actually a more realistic number right now. So on a $300,000 house, the closing costs would be approximately $9,000, right? 3% of 300,000 is approximately $9,000. And realistically, the minimum down payment on a $300,000 house would also be $9,000 as well, because there's a 3% down conventional product out there, okay? And it's very common, people use it all the time. But there's also a 5% down conventional, loan product, which as I understand it, typically comes with a better interest rate, probably lower fees, and typically lower private mortgage insurance, PMI, sometimes also just called mortgage insurance. And if you're like, what's PMI? Basically, it's just a thing that you have to pay if you're under 20% down. It's insurance, but again, I'm not going to get into that. I'm going to assume that you've watched some of my other videos where I talk through this stuff, and now this is more just about this Wish program. Okay? Fair? Okay. If not, go watch some other videos, come back here, and hopefully you understand what I'm talking about. So let's entertain the idea of a 5% down loan on a $300,000 house, and you're paying your own closing costs. Now, again, closing costs, $9,000. That doesn't really change all that much, I don't believe, going from 3% down to 5% down. But let's say $9,000 in closing costs on this $300,000 house. Now, a 5% down payment would be $15,000. Okay, so $15,000 plus $9,000 is $24,000. Okay, so if you have the maximum contribution in this situation of $22,000 plus your $5,500, that means that you have $27,500 to work with. And between the down payment and the closing costs, you're sitting at currently $24,000, which means that you have another $3,500 to play with. The first of which, and I think this is probably the coolest thing, is that you can actually buy out your PMI, your private mortgage insurance, with that extra money. So where that becomes powerful, not only because you wouldn't necessarily have to pay as much per month because you could potentially buy it out, but get this, if you are pre-approved and your absolute top limit is $300,000, right? And now let's say the mortgage insurance on that house is an extra $90 per month, and that would usually be like added on top of your principal, interest, tax, or the insurance is part of that. So the reason that you would be pre-approved and you'd be given a maximum budget of $300,000 would be very specifically because of your debt to income ratio, right? And part of that debt is your payment to this house, and part of your payment to this house would be your mortgage insurance. So you can take this additional gift fund money and pay off that mortgage insurance, then in theory, you could provide yourself a higher maximum purchase price, which also might just get you into a home that you love. But a general rule that my lenders tell me is that an additional $10,000 of financed mortgage, right? So home that's $300,000 and then bump that up to $310,000, that bump would add approximately $45 to your payment. So if we can use that extra funds to pay down that mortgage insurance, that subtracts, say, $90 from your monthly payment, which in turns actually gives you $90 more in purchase power. Does that make sense? So now instead of a $300,000 cap with that mortgage insurance, now you can maybe get up closer to $320,000 cap and no mortgage insurance because you're paying it out with the Wish money. That makes sense? Another potential method that may or may not be the best option, and for the record, you don't have to know what the best option is going to be. The lenders that I work with are going to be able to tell you. They're going to be able to pull all the little levers and go, here you go. This is the best option. This is affords you the most, gets you the cheapest payment. I promise, they are incredible. This other little lever that you can pull at is that you can pay down your interest rate on your loan. So potentially that could be the most efficient way for you to, lower your monthly payment and in turn raise your total purchasing power. Okay, one of the last little pieces about the Wish program is that those funds accrue or collect no interest throughout the term, right? So let's say it's an approximately 5-year long grant. There is no interest accrued. It's not like you sell it after 3 years and you've accrued all this interest and now you're actually losing money on the deal, it accrues no interest. Very cool. And then lastly is that it applies only to FHA and conventional loans. So what that means is basically no VA and no USDA loans. For one, VA and USDA loans, they're both potentially 0% down loans. So it does make a lot of sense, but I'm sure there are times where it would be very, very helpful to have additional funds on those loans. But unfortunately, this is not the loan for you. Or even if you were going to use USDA, maybe that's not the best option. Maybe in this particular case, a conventional or an FHA with wish funds might be the best. Anyways, I don't know what the right answer is. I'm not a lender. I'm just a real estate agent and I don't know those things. Okay, and then the final, last little, not going to say anything else beyond this about this program is that these funds are first come, first served. As I'm shooting this, the funds were literally just released on April 1st of 2021, and once the funds run out, then there are no more Wish funds until April of 2022. So this isn't an advertisement for Wish, okay? I'm just telling you something that I think is sweet and that I think could be very, very helpful. I don't get any money for using Wish. I don't even get any money for using Refined Lending. I just happen to love the crew that I work with. They're the ones who told me about this. They're the ones who told me about Mhfa, and I'm just all about it and I'm here for it. So Alex, Nick, and myself, we heard about these Wish funds and we were like, well, we should probably do a video on this. This is super cool. So here we are, we're doing it. So if this sounds like something you'd be interested in, please do whatever you can to reach out to us. Specifically, go to tothetwincities.com. There's a contact form there. You can email me at jesse@tothetwincities, or you can hit me up on other platforms, but I would prefer tothetwincities.com. And while you're at it, while you're sitting there, if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel, click the bell to get notified. Please give the video a thumbs up and leave a comment. But all right, I appreciate y'all so much. The team appreciates y'all so much. We've had so much fun helping you, and truly the entire system, the entire process that I've created in the last year is so smooth, and I truly cannot wait until you reach out to us and you see just how smooth we've managed to make this, and not only that, but just how hard we will work for you. But anyways, I appreciate you watching this very much. I hope it's been helpful, and hopefully maybe you're watching this and you're really thinking that it's time to make a move, and I would argue that it very well might be. All right, we did it. All right, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.